Yukio Mishima knew that one day nerds were going to destroy literature. And here we are in 2024 in the nerd apocalypse, where all of Mishima's prophecies have come to fruition. And today we are going to hear Mishima himself speak at length on nerds and their impact on art. And if you guys don't already know, Right Conscious is the headquarters of everything related to Yukio Mishima here on YouTube. If you look at the playlist down below, you will see an ever-blossoming library of videos on Mishima that cover his life, his books, and his philosophy of art. And so, enough for me. Let us now hear from Mishima. Because those who seek life goals in literature are people with some kind of dissatisfaction in their real lives. Without solving their real life dissatisfactions in real life, they seek out another world. They search for life goals or morality in literature with the idea that there is a chance of resolution there. Literature that meets that need is always second rate. The crime is yet light and the harm small while young men are being affected by that second rate literature. I will not name any authors, but such literature is available in all ages. Various things are born of that illusion. They become the prisoners of the strange confidence that, although they are powerless, incompetent nerds incapable of changing or reforming this life, they are in a position to mock and laugh at all human beings, that because they gain that position through literature, even if they are immediately punched in the fight, despised by others, possess no sense of justice, cannot even admonish someone smoking on the train, cannot fight even if they see a man threatening a woman on a dark street, and have absolutely no abilities. They possess a certain right to laughter with respect to the world of human beings, and they turn a cynical eye to all things, mock all striving, immediately search for comical flaws in people who are doing something with all their might, ridicule sincerity and passion, and unconsciously acquire the right to scorn beautiful things that transcend humanity, vigorous, pure deeds that are the crystallization of the human spirit. And we will get back to Mishima in a second, but whoa, let's look at what Mishima was saying there. He was already discussing the negative effects of irony and modern culture way before David Foster Wallace was blowing the whistle in America in the 1990s. And this may seem a little odd that a channel that talks about creating a literary renaissance and talks about books, especially meta topics all the time, is supporting this lashing out against nerds, against people who only live in literature. But that is the reason why we have failed. That is the reason why Book Talk and Lit Bros and all these things exist. And literature could be seen as a form of early MMORPG, or a role-playing game online. We always hear about how people on World of Warcraft, MapleStory, RuneScape, whatever the hell game people are playing today, those were the games when I was younger, how the acquisition of levels and XP in those games took away the motivational drive to, acquire goals and things in this reality. But at some level, is that not the same in literature, especially with some kind of books? And I hate to call out all my genre people because I for sure understand that there are some pinnacles of science fiction and literary fiction that are beautiful. Science fiction and fantasy. They're some of the greatest books ever written. And even outside of the mystical zones of those two genres, some literary fiction, romance, thriller, mystery books, they all do the same thing, but they are a form of escapism. And what are we trying to find from literature? What is the end goal? And I talk about all the time how art can transform your life, but Mishima now talks about the second-rate literature and what it does. And this is speaking of the negative type of literature. Quote, that literature is made to inspire a person toward high-mindedness, is skillfully contrived to just slightly elevate average human morality, to show life in a slightly brighter light, and to deceive. The novelist teacher says clever things. He gives hope to heartbroken young men, and to some degree, the strength to start again to young men who have failed. And when they are thoroughly infatuated with a woman and in despair, he says, here's what women are like, and gives them a slightly transcendent point of view. When they are suffering through poverty, he teaches them that money isn't everything in life. There are spiritual values. And when he thinks that he is a physical and mental weakling, he comforts them with the idea that the weaker one is the closer one that approaches the truth of mankind. That is all the hand of a soft and in some cases harsh mother or teacher, and many people have awakened to life through acquaintance with such literature. Such literature is always equipped with humor and vulgar charm, and things that schools do not teach, that fathers and upperclassmen do not say, are deftly weaved in so as to grab the attention. To take the lowest example, one finds innumerable examples of this in literature that is said to be for young boys and girls. Girls begin to really read that literature from the 3rd or 4th year of elementary school, and while their vague dreams crystallize into beautiful, innocent loves, they ultimately break on the wind and waves of the world, but they are given the courage to live vigorously. So this is a beautiful analysis by Mishima, because he's saying that most novelists, and I would agree, barely give you a transcendent point of view. They elevate you a little bit. They educate you a little bit. They put you in a different point of view. But that is not enough. A good book, as I'm sure you know, can transform your soul. And why can't every single book do that? There are books on my shelf that basically no matter who reads them, they are not going to be transformed. And if that isn't your goal, then what is it? Is it just to be a narcissist and make people read your stuff and play with their emotions and give them a slight bit of elevation so that you feel like you are the superior person? Or are you out here on a mission to actually change the world with art? Because if you aren't, then turn the channel off. We don't care about you here. Go have fun. Goodbye. But the reason we are in this situation now is that too many people, partially because of government endowment programs and MFA programs, and now kind of the explosion of self-publishing, have not made music, have written books. And the problem with books is that they take way too long to read. I can listen to a song and within 10 seconds know if it's any good or not, and I can do that for free. So what does real literature do? What does the literature that we should be writing show the reader? And Mishima elaborates on this. But real literature is not like this. The dangers posed by real literature is what I would like most to caution against in nerds. Real literature shows bluntly and without mincing words how full of frightful fate human beings are. However, it does not do so with frightening and threatening tricks like the exhibits at an amusement park haunted house. It teaches through extremely beautiful writing and description full of captivating charm that in this life, an irredeemable evil lurks at the bottom of the human nature. And the better the literature is, the more painstakingly and insistently it teaches that mankind is irredeemable. And although religion is the next step if one seeks goals in life in it, good literature brings one to the most frightful precipice and abandons one there without bridging to the realm of religion. Consequently, those who awaken to the aforementioned life novels are rather better off, and those who come into contact with that frightful first-rate literature and are brought to the sheer precipice would be rather better off if they were able to create such literature with the powers of similar talents of their own. But without those powers and without even making any effort, they fall under the illusion that they have arrived at that precipice by their own individual powers. And did you guys just hear what Mishima said? He said, even if you confront the first-rate literature, even if you read Cormac McCarthy or whoever, that's still a trap for nerds because you feel like you came to that realization yourself. You feel like if you get transformed by Cormac McCarthy's literature, that wasn't you who did that. That was Cormac McCarthy. You were shown a door. It was almost like you took a psychedelic and you got to go up, but now you're back down here at your own consciousness and then can walk around. And Mishima says that people who are like that, who've come down from the trip, have limpid glances. But in their depths, they lack the light and innocent folly and animal power that are the most important things for young men. They have become a species of cryptograms. Like, that is so good. I get emails all the time talking about, this is what I learned from Cormac McCarthy, and this world is meaningless, or this world has life now, and there's all this confusion, which is important, but should young men, and this is something that I'm contemplating about my own life, how much better off would I have been in my early 20s if I wasn't contemplating these things, if I was tapping into my body and soul and living a much more light and innocent life? I'm not talking about being an NPC who's drinking Happy Dad and watching the Jets game, but Mishima calls this the poison of literature. And I've been in university programs. I've seen, it was interesting that I took years off, and then when I returned to university, I think I was 24, 25, so I was seeing these 18, 19, 20-year-olds get into this kind of deep postmodernism or just literature in general, and almost none of the time it was positive. It drew them into further darkness, threw them into the outer dark. Most of them never made it back out, and the only reason I made it back out was not through my interest in literature, but in nature, martial arts, yoga, relationships, like stable relationships, not just hooking up with anyone and whoever. And I think without those pillars there, it's going to be a negative experience. And is this why the aristocracy, is this why rich people, the people that go to Harvard, they have all these pillars in their life? They have a strong family, they have support systems, they maybe even went through initiation rites as a teenager, as a young adult. And so when they expose themselves to philosophy and some of these deeper things, they don't just go wandering aimlessly. You hear about people like Obama reading Deleuze, or some of these other big rich figures, earlier in life, confronting literature, but, not getting lost in it. And one could say the same thing about Cormac McCarthy and some of the other authors we talk about on this channel. They were living life. They were not totally of literature. And the authors who were, the David Foster Wallaces, the Kafkas, I won't even say Kafka, but those authors, they've had a really rough go of it. And we try to live our life like them. We think that by becoming a nerd, that we are going to be able to catch up by, studying literature and dedicating our life to it, that we're going to gain these special powers and be like these individuals. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I really do think that kind of the more long-term spiritual and contemplative path and a focus on real relationships and connection to the world and to the unconscious is much more beneficial for a writer than anything else, because all the best writers had that, and most individuals don't have that. And let's hear Mishima kind of talk about this. This is why I came to inveigh against nerds. It was only much later that I realized that it is impossible to momentarily escape that bog of nihilism by doing kendo and wavering around a bamboo sword. It was also much later, when I had almost passed half of my youth poisoned by the evils of literature, that I realized that the simplest actions can cure in some part that disease of literature. If possible, I would like for young men carried away by the zeal for literature to awaken sooner, and some number of them, people not influenced by the poisons of others, but by nature possessing frightful poisons in their own bodies, should go on to write a number of works as men of letters. And there you have it. He doesn't want us to stand upon, he doesn't want us looking horizontally. He wants us looking internally, into the celestial, into nature, and into the depths. That's the poison we should be intaking. If you want to engage in literature, you need some trauma, you need some pain, you need some tragedy, if you believe in that, to be able to impart that back out into the world and create good art. And this is an interesting philosophy. Like, I don't know if I exactly agree with this, and I don't know if there's a performative thing happening with Mishima here, that he's trying to flex on like all these other people and like, hey, look, here I'm the guy that does martial arts and all this stuff. Like, that stuff happens too all the time. But he is 100% right here. The best thing I ever did for my intellectual career was dedicating my life to martial arts for a couple of years. Because let's look at reality today. The nerds online are generally shitty and judgmental. If you go, I know Reddit's accessible, but you can look at YouTube comments, you can go to Twitter, you can really go anywhere online, which is where the nerds live now and are enabled, and look how they talk about even really anyone who's at an average quality of their art or in life. And it's insane when you look at cancel culture, like people freaking out over Mr. Beast. It's like, are you guys fucking dumb? Didn't you guys all know those videos were scripted? Are you guys surprised at any of this? Like, this is what happens in corporations. If you guys are surprised that Mr. Beast videos are scripted, then you guys are probably dumb enough to think that the NFL isn't scripted, like that the NBA isn't scripted. Like, are you guys still at that level of consciousness? Oh my God, the Chiefs won a Super Bowl and Taylor Swift is there. Oh my God, that's insane. How could that ever happen? Oh my God, the Canadians haven't won a Stanley Cup in 30 years because the Canadians are all dumb enough to keep watching hockey, even if they never win a Stanley Cup. So the American audiences just get fueled. And I have this instinct within me too. I've had, because I was awakened by literature. As soon as I was shown literature and the arts at like 13, 14 years old, and I was let loose. So I had a mentor, Mr. Stewart, he watches this channel sometimes, and he held me together. But then once I moved on, and that was in middle school, and I went on to the 9th grade, and I was just aimless in school, had no good teachers, no one really to look to. I just went online and took out anger and trolled so hard anywhere and everywhere that I could. But I was dissatisfied with my real life. I actually wanted to be a stronger, more powerful individual. And I was maybe the best reader or the best writer of this little group or at the school I was at. But all that did was build resentment. All that did was turn me into a little troll. And now there's a whole generation of people who are closed-minded and weird, logical, online, leaving comments, And it's mind-blowing to me. Like, I have personally never left a negative comment in my entire life. My wife has never left a negative comment in her entire life. I don't know any of my friends personally that leave negative comments, or really any comments at all. And if you want to comment on the video, that's great. But when I see a student in my class, let's say I don't like, or I think is being dumb, or I just don't like how they dress, or just something like that, I don't go, hey, Johnny, you're an idiot and you look like a fucking fool. I don't say that. Or they say something dumb, I don't go on this whole rampage about like something, something random, or list out why they're wrong. If they mispronounce a word, I'm not going to sit there and be like, it's actually Nietzsche. I'm worried about my own shit. I'm worried about connecting with people deeper than that. It's crazy. But I was on Netflix the other day and I saw Joe Rogan had a new special. And I was like, okay, I'll watch this with my wife. And we watched it. I didn't even know he had one out. And it wasn't the funniest thing I've ever watched. It probably isn't in the top 50 or top 100 comedy specials that I've watched. I've watched a lot of them. But I laughed. I wasn't pissing my pants or crying or anything like that, but I laughed multiple times throughout the entire thing. I thought some of the jokes were intelligent. I was like, okay, cool. And then I was like, oh, wait. Go on the Joe Rogan subreddit, just everyone flaming him. Oh my God, the turd, blah, 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 the little thumb Joe. And then it's just like, holy shit, like people are so negative. Like, why would you even watch this? Like people that hate, and then people would be like, why are you watching this? Well, I used to be a fan of Joe Rogan's podcast, so I just wanted to see. And it's like, no, you didn't. You just wanted to watch it with a closed mind so you could come and shit on him. And the whole Joe Rogan subreddit is now dedicated to shitting on Joe Rogan. And I understand that he's worth a lot of money now. Maybe he repeats himself, but why would you watch it then? Why do you care? This is what happens when nerds get unleashed and have no ability to be put in check. And I'm like, who are these people? I don't know who these people are. And recently I was in Tucson. This was actually like a month or two ago. And I was wearing one of my Cormac McCarthy t-shirts. And some guy was like, oh my God, that's a Cormac McCarthy t-shirt. I was like, yeah, I have a YouTube channel. You should go check it out. And he was like, oh, okay. But I could tell immediately, like he had the most Reddit judgmental vibes ever. Like I was like, okay. And guess what? I'm not voting for Mommy Kamala or Daddy Trump this year or ever voting, because I've realized that politics are far downstream of the transcendent. But I was like, okay, this guy is super liberal and I know already what he's going to think of my videos. And so weeks later, I go back to the same place. I eat there a couple times a month and he doesn't say anything to me. He's like literally our waiter. And I know he watched the videos. And so then I asked him, like, okay, I'm going to troll him. Like, hey, what'd you think of my videos, man? And he's like, I thought they were all right. And I was like, oh my God, this guy doesn't like the videos, which is cool. But then I asked, are you a part of the Cormac McCarthy subreddit? And he's like, yeah, there's some good stuff on there. Then I asked, have you seen the Windy Goon video? He said, oh yeah. And I was like, okay, here we go. And like I said, it's okay if you don't like me. I don't care. But I've always wondered, like, who are these people? Do they actually exist? Are they just bots? And that was like the first time in reality I actually met one of these individuals. But his eyes, as Mishima said, were a hollow shell. And if it wasn't me that he was projecting maybe the negativity toward, it was somebody else. And this was someone who he met in person, who was kind to him, who he saw, and he couldn't even, anyway, don't get me started. And just imagine really fast if the nerds had no power online. Imagine if there were no fact checking, no comments anywhere, no forums. Imagine if you came to YouTube and there were no comments anywhere. And you can't shut comments off or people become automatically suspicious. Why is he hiding comments? Imagine if you had to use your own mind, just like when you read a book. If you read a book, there's no comment section. There's no fact checking. Imagine if you had to use your own mind to discern if you liked the video or not. And then once it was over, you moved on and decided if you wanted to watch again or not. Because I know a lot of the time when I watch a YouTube video, I go straight to the comment section. I'm looking at what they're saying as I'm listening to the person talk or do whatever. Is that healthy? Is that good? It is not. Because eventually when a movement or something starts to grow, and this is what happens to almost every movement, it starts to eat itself alive, like we're seeing with Mr. Beast, like we're seeing with cancel culture and Joe Rogan and all these people. These communities are imploding. And that's why, hopefully, with my idea of the literary renaissance, if we have 50,000 independent authors who are answering to nobody, not signed by anyone, no publishing deals, and they all are dominating their own little sub-niche, all with the end goal of producing a work of art that can transform someone's life and then sharing that and learning to market that out to the world, that's the goal. That would be insane. That would work, because if I got taken out or whoever is the bigger figure like in the movement got taken out, then we would have 50,000 strong below us. It's like IFPS on the internet, or torrents. If one person gets taken out, it's still up everywhere else. But right now, as a literature community, we are on shaky ground, and our supporters, who we've built up are a bunch of nerds. We don't need nerds. We need souljaus in the movement who maybe were once nerds, but now actually want to activate and do something in the world. So if you want to join me on that journey, head over to school.com, where I am about to launch 5 different courses for free. No paywall. It is also a community where you can ask any questions you have about writing. I'll be doing live calls, like 100% dedicated to the literary renaissance. We have a wait list right now nearing 1,000 people. So it's going to hopefully be a pretty big launch. So I would love to see you guys over there. If not, maybe I'll see you in the next video, or maybe I will see you talking about me on Reddit very soon.